We have Raeesah Reese and Linda Tenerowicz.
Surveillance cameras watched me as I sat in a small, dim, confined space, awaiting questioning. To my right, a row of Palestinian men, young and old. In broken English, a young man asked me, "Are you in trouble? Why did they stop you?" I don't know how to answer him. I have never been in this situation before. My name is Raeesah Reese, and I'm a senior at Loyola Marymount University. And this summer, I got a small taste of what Palestinians in the West Bank experience on a daily basis. Arbitrary interrogation and detention based on my faith and racial background. Through my experience at the Jordan Allenby Bridge, a main entry point into Israel and the West Bank, I saw firsthand how similar the struggles between low-income people of color in the US, immigrants at the US-Mexico border, and those living in the occupied territories of Palestine. Growing up in a low-income, segregated neighborhood in South Los Angeles, I have been touched by the effects of racial profiling, mass incarceration, and criminalization. Men of color confined in a space waiting to be criminalized by the Border Patrol based on their ethnic and religious background. I thought of my own brothers, my father, men struggling to maintain their sense of humanity within a system that exploits and mistreats them. From Palestine to Guantanamo to San Quentin, our lower income youth of color are being incarcerated and tortured by a system that profits off of their exploitation. As I recall the links between the injustice experienced by my community and those in Palestine, I have to ask, why can't we imagine a world without military occupation, without prisons, without borders? What would have to be true about the world in order for us to imagine a society based on restorative justice, equal rights for citizenship and land, employment and educational opportunities, freedom of movement? As we attend this conference that focuses on immigration reform and human rights for undocumented peoples, it is important to understand how interconnected these global issues are. For example, G4S, a private British-Danish security company responsible for maintaining the Israeli separation wall that divides Israel from the West Bank, is the same company that provides security surveillance technology for border in the Arizona-Mexico territory. We cannot denounce the militarization of the border and remain complicit in maintaining the occupation of Palestinian land, for these struggles are intricately linked. We cannot care about one injustice and ignore others. Our inability to truly imagine and craft a world of hope for all humankind stems from our investment in an imbalanced social contract. As a collective society of social, political, and economic institutions, we've allowed profit, self-interest, and nationalism to come before human rights.
As students, we have witnessed how our school is particularly strong in providing service for the marginalized and the oppressed, but less so when it comes to taking action against unjust institutions. We see the potential for our university to not only be a steward to the oppressed, but to stand in solidarity alongside them by resisting injustice physically, politically, and financially. My name is Linda Tenerowicz, and I'm a senior at Loyola Marymount University. To be men and women with and for others does not suggest a spirit of solidarity. It demands it. We hope to move from a model of social service to social change through our club, Students for Justice in Palestine, which advocates for justice and equality in Israel and Palestine, as well as liberation and equality for all peoples, domestically and internationally. As students, we have the opportunity to recognize the Jesuit principle of social justice by leading the way in getting our universities to divest from corporations that support the occupation, the prison system, and the militarization of borders. We hope to inspire other Jesuit schools to do the same. In May of 2012, Raeesah and I went on an alternative break trip to Israel and Palestine, focusing on peace activism. We wanted to understand the full history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as well as the humanity of the situation. Unfortunately, we ended up with a bitter taste of reality at the Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, as our student leader, Alex Abbasi, was denied entry into the country simply for being of Palestinian descent. The group fought hard to convince the Border Patrol to let Alex come through with us, but to no avail. He was sent home after being held in detention for 9 hours. The explanation we received? Security. Although our fellow student and close friend was seen as a security threat, disempowered us, we were motivated to fulfill the vision of this trip. This incident is not an isolated one. Walking through the streets and alleyways of Hebron, a small Palestinian village, we were able to see how a once prosperous community is now riddled with military vehicles, soldiers, gates, and barbed wire. As we approached the military checkpoint to enter the Ibrahim Mosque in Israel, I watched as each of my group members entered with a quick flash of a passport. However, when our tour guide Walid, a Palestinian native, could not provide sufficient identification, he was denied entry. The inaccessibility Walid had to one of the holiest places in Islam upset me to the point that I could not will myself to enter. Instead, I stayed behind with Walid as he explained to me how relieved he was that they simply denied him entry. The soldiers could have arbitrarily held him for hours on end, conducted an interrogation, or worse. But simply being told no because he's Palestinian and a supposed security threat was the best that he could hope for.
I was truly humbled to be able to return to Palestine to participate in a program to study Arabic and Palestinian studies at Birzeit University, the Rachel Corrie Activist Scholarship. This opportunity would have allowed me to deepen my understanding and firsthand knowledge about the Palestinian struggle to resist oppression and strengthen my skills as an activist. However, I never made it there. I was denied entry into Israel and Palestine, held in detention for 12 hours without food or water, and sent back to Jordan without any explanation. It's for reasons of security, the young border official told me as she instructed me onto the bus that would cross back over the border. As I was being interrogated for the third time by an Israeli security official, I felt powerless and demoralized, as if I was a criminal for simply being a person of color, a Muslim, and a supporter of Palestinian human rights. The Israeli interrogator said to me, "I want you to remember this moment when you were denied entry. And when you go back home, you will share this story and blame Israel for your problems. But I want you to remember that you will never be allowed back in." My heart dropped. I realized that I would probably never be able to complete a Muslim's pilgrimage to the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem during Ramadan. However, this fear of not fulfilling a tenet of my faith is pale in comparison to what Palestinians face on a daily basis. I was threatened with never being able to return. For Palestinians living as refugees in their own homeland, the right to return to their homes may never be recognized. I now feel a great sense of solidarity with my close friend Alex, who encountered the same obstacle, as well as with Palestinian people struggling to preserve their lives under a brutal state power. As a Jesuit community of students, staff, and faculty, it is imperative that we act against injustice both domestically and abroad. As individuals, we can affect social change by changing our own consumer patterns and making sure they do not link to companies that support the occupation or any other form of injustice. As Jesuit institutions, we can join other universities and colleges in the international BDS, Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions movement, initiated by Palestinian civil society to divest from companies and corporations that contribute to sustaining the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. Just as students in academic institutions were instrumental in dismantling apartheid in South Africa through campaigns of boycott and divestment, we too can make an impact by ensuring that our business practices, our financial departments are practicing ethical investment, and that as private institutions, we are completely transparent in how we utilize our tuition dollars and conduct our investments and endowments.
As leaders of Students for Justice in Palestine, we often feel marginalized in our message, as some may deem us as extremists. However, we are consoled by the words of Martin Luther King Jr. As he sat in a jail cell in Birmingham, Alabama, he wrote, quote, "But though I was initially disappointed at being categorized as an extremist, I continued to think about the matter, and I gradually gained a measure of satisfaction from that label. Was not Jesus an extremist for love? Was not Amos an extremist for justice? Was not Martin Luther an extremist?" End quote. So the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or for the extension of justice? It is only by taking concrete action that we will be able to contribute to altering our social contract with humanity and fully commit to illuminating the horizon of hope for all people, regardless of race, class, gender, or beliefs. Thank you for your attention, and we hope to further the conversation. If anyone has any questions, Raeesah and I will be holding a workshop following this session on nonviolent resistance and art. So thank you.